The 2023 NFL draft is getting closer and closer, and the debate of where prospects will be drafted or when they should be drafted is coming into the spotlight. The quarterback class is pretty straightforward, but there is a question on how many of these prospects will meet expectations in the NFL, if any. Nonetheless, there's a lot of upside in every prospect, and this class has big potential to be the next best class. In this video, I talk about the top 5 quarterback prospects in this draft, and both the rankings and grades are interesting up until the very end. I'm Chase Keller, and I hope you enjoy this video. Let's get right into it with number 5. Now, the competition is highest for this selection as several quarterbacks that I scouted came close with C or C minus grades, including Hendon Hooker and Jaron Hall, both barely missing out on this list. And instead, I went with Stanford quarterback Tanner McKee. Now, on the stat sheet, it might not look too appealing with 15 total touchdowns and 8 interceptions with a fall in production. And generally, McKee isn't the greatest prospect, but he's got potential to be a reliable backup. The first thing I liked about McKee was his frame. Standing at 6'6", 230 pounds, he's got a Trevor Lawrence-type build, clearly not as talented, though. In terms of the film, McKee has nice arm talent in terms of both strength and accuracy. He efficiently made passes, whether it was a rocket downfield for a big gain or an over-the-shoulder pass placed perfectly. For short and medium routes, I noticed a bit of deception in his game, especially towards second-level defenders who are covering slanting receivers, check-down routes, everything in between. The deep ball accuracy was about the only thing that wowed me in McKee, though. The deception is great, but common throughout starting and backup quarterbacks in this era. In terms of this class, that deep ball accuracy is going to be key for his draft stock. McKee is generally an old school quarterback. He's a pocket passer, limited mobility outside of the pocket. But inside the pocket, though, his escapability is great and he can get outside of the pocket. It's just a struggle for what he does once he gets that far. Mechanics are also a struggle for McKee, as his inconsistent and slow release is going to cause him a lot of trouble in this league. Whether it's turning the ball over in the air or in contact, he's going to have to improve heavily on ball security if his mechanics are going to stay like this. As I previously mentioned, I only see McKee being a backup in the NFL with potential to be a reliable backup, but that's because he is a pure pocket passer with that minimal mobility. He will need to be in a fitting scheme for maximum success. Teams like Tampa Bay or Los Angeles are potential landing spots for McKee in this draft, and I have him at a C, which is early to mid third round pick, and I see him going around that time or maybe even in round 2. Originally, I had Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson as a C- and ranked number 7 in this class, but after a peek through everyone's film and taking Cameron Ward out of the mix since he's not in this draft, Richardson rises to number 4. The only reason he went up a grade is because I never realized the amount of upside that he has in a modern day NFL. I noticed a leap in production in Justin Fields, who I was not a fan of as a prospect either, but it's still notable that he made that jump. Fields succeeding is going to help Richardson potentially be a day 1 starter. Richardson is going to need to improve a lot in the air if he wants to be a consistent and reliable starter in the NFL. He has made fantastic throws with Florida, but he has not consistently made these types of throws. In fact, he hasn't made much progress with his accuracy at all, which is terrible to provide these coaches with. In his first year as a full-time starter, which was 2022, he completed only 54% of his passes, and that's just not a stat sheet takeaway, that was a film takeaway as well. Even in the short and medium game, Richardson was missing passes that a college QB should easily make, let alone an NFL quarterback. A contributor to the inaccurate passing is his mechanics, which, just like McKee, are inconsistent. He does have a very quick release, which does apply to his upside, but his inaccuracies and inconsistencies, the quick release just didn't matter in 2022. His 9 interceptions and 3 fumbles are a direct result of those poor mechanics. And just like McKee, if he can't improve on his mechanics, he will need to improve on that ball security. Despite that, Richardson's upside remains extremely high due to his athleticism and his arm talent. I'm expecting a massive combine out of him to raise his stock, and even DraftKings odds of him going number 1 are increasing drastically. He ran the ball in 9 times in 2022 and saw 650 rushing yards in that frame. When you take into account him getting sacked 13 times as well, the ground game was very impressive for him, and I'm surprised he wasn't used more in that run game at Florida. The arm talent is there as well. He is very inaccurate, but as I previously mentioned, he made great throws at Florida. He does have the strength to launch the ball 50 yards downfield, and he has the potential to do it accurately if he falls into a reliable and functional developmental system. Overall, Richardson is an iffy prospect for me. That upside is an A, but the low is a D, and as a prospect at the moment, he is a C. With the NFL Combine coming up, his grade may rise, but I don't want to overreact to an athletic performance if I already know about these traits. With the C grade, his talent level is sitting around early to mid third round, but we all know that he is likely to be selected in the top 10. I have Carolina selecting Richardson with the ninth pick in my latest mock draft. As I said, after the fifth selection, this class does get pretty straightforward, and at number 3, I have Kentucky quarterback Will Levis. I'll be honest, I hated Levis originally, as his crazy drop in production made him look like he just forgot how to play football. After a quick watch through his film, though, he leveled himself up from a C minus to a C plus, and going in depth for this video, he leveled himself up even more. At Kentucky, Levis had over 6,000 total yards, 54 total touchdowns, 23 interceptions, and 6 fumbles, which is still a solid SEC career. Levis also has extremely high upside, which isn't as high as Richardson, but it's definitely still there. Upside was not on Richardson's strengths list because he holds enough strength to fill that list. Levis, not so much. Yet his strengths are holding more value to NFL franchises than Richardson's. First, his frame is something to glorify. At 6'3", 232, he can play physically whenever needed, which will help him develop into a solid poised quarterback at the next level. When you factor in that he's got passing traits, mobility, and even pocket passing abilities, having that physical type frame is going to help him succeed. Levis also has solid arm talent, just like the last two guys I mentioned, but Levis uses it more efficiently than those other guys. He completed 66% of his passes in both years at Kentucky, which helped to elevate their passing game to new heights. He also has nice mechanics for a passer both in and out of the pocket, which is something the NFL teams are going to look at for the future of the franchise. With a lot of great NFL traits, what makes Levis only a decent prospect? I'll start with the kind of minor thing, which is poise. Now, I did say that he can develop into a solid poised quarterback, and I have said several times that poise is the most important trait in a quarterback. But for the current state of Levis, it is a point of improvement. He will need to utilize his physicality more to develop into a poised quarterback, but I'm sure with the right development, he can do so. Adding on to the development, he will need to improve on decision making heavily. A lot of his reckless moves will not fly in the NFL, and making 3 or 4 of them in a game will lead to a couple of turnovers and a spot on the bench for a backup. That's why I love his scheme fit, but I will get to that in a second. Levis is a nice prospect, but he needs to improve on a couple of big factors to excel in the league. Again, he's got great upside and he can easily be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but he may also turn into a Sam Darnold type player. I am giving Levis a B minus grade, which translates to a mid second round pick talent, but his upside can bring him up to an A just like Richardson. In my latest mock draft, I have Levis going pick 8 to Atlanta, and I made this selection because Atlanta would have 2 developing quarterbacks to compete for that starting position, along with Levis fitting well into that run-heavy scheme. Straightforward and moving on. Number 2 is OSU quarterback CJ Stroud, who I originally wasn't a fan of, but after watching his film, he surprised me and he may actually be a fantastic quarterback in this league. The 6'3", 218 junior possesses a handful of great quarterback traits that will translate immediately to the next level. Some that will take a bit, but understanding his game makes me believe that those won't take long to translate either. There is one nagging trait that drops his grade a little bit, and I'll get into that later on. First, his positives are just appalling to look at. It starts with his accuracy at all 3 levels. He uses his great mechanics and high IQ to make these sharp throws not only through tight windows in the short and medium game, but also over-the-shoulder dimes in the deep game. He was also great at reads with Ohio State, but I don't want to use that as a positive because Ohio State has an elite system going on there with Ryan Day. Speaking of that deep ball accuracy, he also possesses fantastic arm talent, the best in this class. While he was a little inconsistent in 2022, at least in conference play, he still dropped a lot of great deep passes with distance and accuracy. He also anticipates defensive moves, especially when defensive backs bite on double moves going deep. Finally, a quick little nugget is that he was a great leader in Ohio State's offense, putting matters into his own hands at elite efficiency. I noticed a lot of audible calls throughout his film, which helps me understand that he knows the scheme very well, and with this quick adaptation to the offense, he might do the same at the next level. That in itself is A-plus worthy, but sadly there is one massive issue that Stroud has with his game, and that is his poise. His poise is a little bit underwhelming, and it's not going to work out if he gets drafted to a team like the Texans or the Raiders. He's a glorified Jared Goff in this aspect. I noticed a lot of panic and ugly decision-making when pressured, which is not good for scouts. When it comes to Goff, he has performed very well on offenses with great offensive lines like the 2018 Rams and the 2022 Lions. Stroud may work the same, which is going to bring down his stock as that just screams system quarterback. Stroud did surprise me with his tape, though. Poise is an extremely important factor, and it was as nagging as I originally knew it as, but the elite traits that he possesses will translate to the next level more than I thought. If Stroud can get either behind a great offensive line or learn how to stay poised in that pocket, he will be a great NFL quarterback. He jumps from a B to an A minus for my grades, making him a mid first round talent, and I have him going second overall to the Texans in my latest mock draft. And my number one quarterback prospect in this draft class is Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. Now, I already made a full scouting report on him, so I will keep this short and sweet. If you are interested in a full report on him, there should be a card right here on this video that takes you to that video. There's also a link in the description, so please check that out if you are interested. To summarize, though, Young has ridiculous poise for a college quarterback, and he's only 6 feet tall. That will be seen as undersized, but he plays in the pocket like he's 6'6", 250. When he feels disturbed, he makes great plays moving out with his legs, and he does not have a tendency to scramble past the line of scrimmage, but more stay behind the line, guiding his receivers, which shows great leadership as a quarterback. Young is also the most accurate quarterback in this draft in the short and medium games, making fantastic reads, delivering passes into tight windows, and overall making the best pass for his receiver. No doubt in my mind that if he lands with Houston, they will use that 12th pick to select a new target for Young to throw to. One weakness that I noticed in his game is that while he has the arm, he doesn't have the consistent deep accuracy. Playing in the NFL, he will need to improve on going over the shoulder on these passes, as his more underthrown passes will be picked by lurking safeties or even the corner if it's thrown that bad. Young does check a lot of boxes as an NFL prospect, though, and he should be treated as if he's the next Russell Wilson at the least. My prospect grade for Young is an A, which lands him as an early first-round pick and just lower than my 3 A-plus prospects in this class. In my latest mock, I had the Colts trading up to first overall to select Young. I know I mentioned this mock a lot, so if you would like to watch it, I live streamed it just over a week ago, and that is linked in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more analysis videos. I do make a lot of scouting reports, mock drafts, and even NFL content, so if you are interested, please check that out. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and thank you guys for choosing this channel as your source of sports coverage.